Today, the College adopted the Enlargement report. It is now 10 years ago that the protests on Maidan started. Maidan protests where people were shot because they wrapped themselves into a European flag. And now, 10 years later, today is a historic day because today the Commission recommends that the Council opens accession negotiations with Ukraine and with Moldova. The Commission also recommends the opening of EU accession negotiations with Bosnia and Herzegovina once the necessary degree of compliance with the membership criteria is achieved. And the Commission recommends that the Council grants Georgia the status of a candidate country on the understanding that certain reform steps are taken. Let me focus on these 4 countries. First, on Ukraine. Ukraine continues to face tremendous hardship and tragedy provoked by Russia's war of aggression, and yet the Ukrainians are deeply reforming their country, even as they are fighting a war that is existential for them. Weekend and could convince myself well over 90% of the necessary steps that we set out last year in our report. Just to give you an idea, main progress has been achieved on the constitutional justice reform, on the selection of the High Council of Justice, the anti-corruption programme, progress on anti-money laundering, important measures to curb the oligarchs' grip on the public life, new media law, and progress on national minorities. The remaining reforms are already on their way, that's good, and the Commission commends these efforts. And on this basis, we have recommended today that the Council opens accession negotiations. We also recommend that the Council adopts a negotiating framework once Ukraine has carried out the ongoing reforms. And on that, we will report then in March 2024. Moldova is not facing a kinetic war, but Moldova is the subject of constant destabilization efforts against its democracy. It also suffers the consequences of the war in Ukraine. Moldova is welcoming a large number of Ukrainian refugees. Moldova is facing disruptions and blackmail related to its energy system. But like Ukraine, Moldova has undertaken significant reform efforts. For example, in the area of the judiciary, it has stepped up considerably the investigative work related to corruption and organized crime. It has made legislative changes to fight vested interests. So here too, the Commission recommends that the Council opens accession negotiations. There are some remaining measures that have to be finished, and on this basis, here too, the Council could then finalise the negotiating framework, and the Commission will report on the progress to Council in March 2024. Now, Bosnia and Herzegovina. We recognise a number of positive political and legal steps. For example, the swift entry into office of a new Council of Ministers in January 2023, the commitment of political parties to the goal of accession have, without any doubt, brought positive results. There is progress in the fight against organised crime, money laundering and terrorism, for example. But we also note with concern the various unconstitutional laws adopted by the representatives of the Republika Srpska entity. And against this backdrop, the Commission recommends to the Council the opening of accession negotiations once the necessary degree of criteria is achieved. And here too, the Commission will report to the Council on progress by March 2024. To Georgia. Here, the College fully supports the genuine aspirations of the overwhelming majority of its citizens by the authorities, who should engage more with the opposition of national interest. This is needed by the government on the 12 priorities identified last year before candidate status was granted. The Commission also acknowledges a number of positive steps. For example, the personalised approach was withdrawn and the Anti-Corruption Bureau was set up. Therefore, the Commission recommends to grant candidate status to Georgia on the understanding that the government takes important reform steps. Now, in general, to conclude, enlargement is a vital policy for the European Union. And this has been my main message since the beginning of my mandate. Completing our union is the call of history. It is the natural horizon of the European Union. The citizens of countries that want to join are Europeans, just like those of today's union, because we all know that geography, history, and common values bind us. So completing our union also has a strong economic and political and geopolitical logic. We have seen, if you see the history of the last enlargement rounds, they have shown that there is an enormous benefits, both for those countries who access the European Union and the European Union itself. Basically, we all win. And you can see it for the new members, their citizens and businesses. There's access to our 4 freedoms, access to our single market. Citizens can travel, businesses have new markets, and all of this is a powerful lever to increase prosperity and therefore stability in these countries. But for the European Union itself, the advantages are also very clear and impressive. The expansion of our single market brings economy of scale for our businesses, increases our competitiveness and therefore the strength of our single market. Our history of enlargement has economic success story. But also if you look at the global and it partner. Just take the fact that the common purchase of gas, being 27, makes a huge difference in the success of this in this field. Enlargement is also an investment in our security, because integrating new members in the European Union shields those new members also from foreign interference, and it stabilizes our neighborhood, therefore. In times where we see the rules-based international order increasingly called into question, of course a larger and stronger European Union gives us a stronger voice in the world. So in sum, enlargement is a unique opportunity both for the countries aspiring to join the European Union and, of course, for us. It is a driver for peace and prosperity that makes our union so special. Thank you.
Commissioner.